Hey Daydreamers, it's Alex, and today I'm going to share some of my favourite Australian authors and Australian books with you. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Australian. I now live in England. We've been living here for about 7 years, but I am originally from Australia. And there are some Australian authors that I love that I just notice don't get much attention over here, and I feel like that's because people don't know about them, and so I thought I would introduce you to some of my favourites. So the first author is one who is published in the UK, but like I say, I just don't see a lot of hype or buzz or anyone really even talking about his books, so I just wanted to share them with you and bring them to your attention in case they sound like something you might like. And his first author is Matthew Riley. He's written a lot of books. He writes a lot of action adventure books, sometimes with a bit of a sci-fi twist. So I'm going to talk to you about two of his books, and they're my two favourite books of his. The first one is The Great Zoo of China. This book is about a top secret zoo that opens in China, and they've kept it secret because of what the zoo showcases, I guess. And this zoo has dragons, which is just amazing. And I adore this book. This is my favourite Matthew Riley book ever. I want to reread it soon. It's just cover to cover, high speed action, so much fun. I shall read you the synopsis to give you a better idea of what it's about. An expert on reptiles and a skilled vet, C.J. Cameron is difficult to face. When the Chinese government invites her to a private unveiling of a magnificent top-secret zoo, she is intrigued enough to accept, but expects nothing she can't handle. Then the Chinese announce their astounding revelation. For decades they've been breeding a species believed to be the stuff of myth. Huge, vicious, and deadly. Despite the danger, the hosts stress that every guest is safe, but CJ spots flaws in the zoo's security and growing unrest among its captives. It seems it's just a matter of time before the enraged beasts break free, and it's just amazing. If you love high action, fast-paced books that are just action cover to cover, Matthew Riley is definitely the author for you. He writes more adult books most of the time, just so you know, but they are just so quick to read and you get sucked in and you can't put it down because there's nowhere where there's a lull in the action for you to put it down. You just have to keep reading. So definitely check that one out. And then my other favourite book of Matthew Riley's is Ice Station, and the reason this one is one of my favourites, I think it's partly because it was the first one I read by him, and so it's a bit of that nostalgia feeling. This is the first book in one of his series. This is the first book in the Scarecrow series, and the Scarecrow series follows Lieutenant Shane Schofield, and his call sign is Scarecrow. He works in I think it's the US military, I believe. And all of the books in this series have him as the main character, and it's just his adventures. Once again, cover to cover action, can't put it down. This one is set on Antarctica in a military base on Antarctica, and they find something in the ice that leads to craziness, I guess. And once again, I'll read you the back. At a remote US ice station in Antarctica, a team of scientists has made an amazing discovery. They have found something unbelievable buried below the surface, trapped inside a layer of ice 400 million years old. Something made of metal, something which shouldn't be there. It's the discovery of a lifetime, a discovery of immeasurable value, and a discovery men will kill for. Led by the enigmatic Lieutenant Shane Schofield, a crack team of US Marines is rushed to the ice station to secure this bizarre discovery for their own nation. Meanwhile, other countries have developed the same idea and are ready to pursue it swiftly and ruthlessly. Fortunately, Schofield's men are a tough unit, all set to follow their leader into hell. They soon discover they just did. Everything I just said about Great Zoo of China applies to this one. Amazing cover-to-cover action, fast-paced. They are quite, like I said, they're adult books, so they don't hold back on some of the more gruesome details and people die and stuff like that. So if you don't like reading about that, don't pick up these ones. But if you don't mind it, or if you even like it, no judgment, highly recommend Matthew Riley. The next author I want to talk about is John Marsden. I've only read one series by him, and that is the Tomorrow series, with the first book being Tomorrow When the War Began. This is a series set in Australia. It's YA, and it's about a group of teens who, I believe they finish school and so they decide to go on a camping trip for a week. While they're out camping, they go to somewhere really remote, and while they're out they see some planes fly overhead and they don't think much of it. They come back and they find that their town and all of Australia has been invaded and is now like occupied and oppressed. Once again, I shall read the back to make more sense. The back doesn't actually tell you that much, but I'll read it anyway. Ellie and her friends leave home one morning, wave goodbye to their parents, and head into the hills to camp out. Returning home a week later, they find everything's changed. Their homes destroyed, their families taken, their country invaded. Would you fight? Would you give up everything? Would you risk life itself? Tomorrow When the War Began asks the biggest questions you will ever have to answer. So yes, as that implies, they try and fight for their country. They're a group of teenagers, so they can't do much, but they do what they can. And it's very, once again, rather action-packed read. Australian authors like writing action books, apparently. But yes, this was one I read for school. This was like an Australian school study book. Really loved it. It's a 7-book series. They're all quite short as well, so if you want to dip your toe in, this is a good one. Highly recommend again. He's written other books, but I haven't read them yet, but I do want to get around to them one day. The last author I'll be recommending to you today is one of my all-time favourite authors, and that is Emily Rodda. One of the series that I would like to highlight that she's written today is Deltora Quest, the Deltora Quest series. This series is amazing. These are middle grade books, so they are a bit younger. And I read these books when I was younger. This is my copy from when I was a kid, and it's so battered. You can see how many times I've read this, how well loved this is. So this is a fantasy series set in a world called Deltora, and I was going to read you the synopsis, but this is a bind-up. This is not one book. This is a bind-up of 8 books. This is an 8-book series, and this is a bind-up of all of the books. And the back just has the titles of the books on. So I will try and find a synopsis. Here we go. Inside flap, as always. For centuries, the evil Shadow Lord has been plotting to invade Deltora and enslave its people. All that stands against him is the magic belt of Deltora with its 7 gems of great and mysterious power. When the gems are stolen and scattered throughout the kingdom, the enemy triumphs and Deltora is lost. Abandoned by their king, suffering under the Shadow Lord's cruel tyranny, the people live in ignorance, terror, and despair. But while most have abandoned hope, 3 unlikely companions have not. The great gems have been hidden in fearsome places throughout the kingdom and are protected by terrible guardians. But Leaf, Barda, and Jasmine believe they can be found. They cling to their faith that if the magic belt of Deltora can be restored, the Shadow Lord will be banished from their land. With only a sketchy map to guide them, the companions set out into the unknown. So begins the perilous quest, which has captured the imagination of millions throughout the world. And it's just so much fun. I feel like this is probably where my love of fantasy came from. Amazing books. Highly recommend Emily Rodda. Deltora Quest is split into 3 series. So this is series 1 and it's 8 books. And then you have Deltora Quest 2. This is 3 books. And then you have Deltora Quest 3 and this is 4 books. And Deltora Quest 3 is my favourite of the series. It has dragons. I love dragons, so obviously this is my favourite. I highly recommend Deltora Quest if you like middle grade fantasies. They are very good. Another series she's written, which I don't currently have a physical copy of because I was an idiot who got rid of my copies and I still haven't managed to find them again to buy them up, is the Rowan of Rin series. And these are also very good books. Also read them a long time ago, so I can't really remember what they're about, but they're about a boy called Rowan who lives in a village called Rin, and he's like an outcast a bit, and then it's a 5-book series, and in each book there's some adventure where he saves the day and his people start to appreciate him more, and it's a very nice series. So that's it for my Australian author recommendations for today. I might do another one in the future, so maybe keep an eye out for that. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't, and keep an eye out for Beth's video on Wednesday, and I will see you next time. Bye!